and welcome to the Doctors Who podcast. My name is Chris.
I'm Chip.
And I'm Brian.
And tonight, whichever, we're going to start talking about Mistborn, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I almost just by habit said the name of the wind.
We did that for like 10
did that.
times.
That was a lot of fun, by the way.
We have a playlist. You should check it out. It has like 11 episodes on it.
Something like that.
But today we're diving into something new. This is the first... It's not the first book by Brandon Sanderson, but it is still relatively early on in what he's accomplished so far. So,
and outside of The Wheel of Time, it's my first time reading a Brandon Sanderson
yeah,
book.
the same. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is all brand new to all of us, unlike Name of the Wind, where Chip had read it a couple of times. I'd read
part of it, at least.
Most of it once, and Brian had never. So we're all coming at this from the same place, which is pretty cool.
Pretty brand
new.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So I don't think there's anything else we need to say. We can just jump in. We can do a quick synopsis on the Prologue, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, and then we can kind of dig into thoughts, impressions,
things
like that.
We didn't
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So,
great.
So jumping in, the Prologue, Lord Trusting entertains an obligator sent by Lord Venture, hoping to gain... Which one?
Trusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Venture
All of
probably
them.
is too.
I mean, Venture's probably a big jerk as well, but
Anyway, hoping to gain Venture's business partnership. Kelsier, and I don't know how we're going to pronounce this, but I read somewhere that it's kind of French pronunciation, but then I heard in the audiobook it's also, they use Kelsier,
So we've actually gotten a couple of comments on our previous YouTube episode.
Oh, yeah?
One of them said in the audiobook it is Kelsier. And then I think we have a response to that comment saying that it does follow the French pronunciation. So
That's what we say the R, Kelsier.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. House rule until somebody comes with some facts.
Okay.
All right.
So, Kelsier speaks with some skaa, which are slaves, as we know, basically serfs, like in a feudal system.
So it's like a caste. It's not like the Mighty Boss Tones, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Wrong
SKAA.
Right. Okay.
So in the evening, and when a skaa girl is being taken to Trusting, Kelsier intervenes, killing Trusting and all his servants and soldiers, and finally burning the manor to the ground. Chapter 1 continues. We're introduced to Vin, who is summoned to Cayman by Ulef. Cayman, who is a Thieves Guild member, pretends to be a man named Lord Jadu, head of a house desperately looking for some new contracts. This is a cover and an attempt to scam the Steel Ministry out of money. Vin does something they call soothing the obligator, Prelane Laird, so he won't dismiss Cayman's pleas. And then finally, Chapter 2, Kelsier meets up with a man named Doxson. They talk about their upcoming meeting. Cayman, as Lord Jadu, takes Vin to the ministry and to scam the ministry. Kelsier and Doxson sit in the waiting room with Cayman and Vin. Vin tries to soothe the High Prelon, and he gives Cayman 3,000 boxings, which I guess is a currency.
Apparently a lot of money.
Ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
Kelsier and Doxson see the High Prelon and a Steel Inquisitor, who apparently is very nasty. They tail Cayman, Vin and the rest of Cayman's retinue. Doxson plans to distract the Obligator, while Kelsier plans to distract the Inquisitor. And that's kind of the end of Chapter 2, and where we're going to stop our discussion tonight. So
Sounds good.
anyway.
Great. Okay.
That's a lot to cover.
So my first impressions were, you have like Lord Trusting trying to impress this
Lord Venture.
the Obligator.
The Obligator.
Oh, the Obligator.
Which
that's right.
I kind of thought of as like a really enhanced notary. I don't know if anyone else got that, but he kind of has that air about him, like he's an accountant or notary, where he's like, I validate what's important.
Yeah, there is definitely a sense of self-importance there.
But that entire scene where they're like where he's like Tresting is trying to impress this obligator by looking over like his sea of skaa slaves, and there's like one that is like meeting his eyes defiantly.
Yeah, and we assume it's Kelsier.
Right. But at that point, it's like, oh, geez, we're gonna do this like this trope of the solitary slave rising up and inspiring the masses of slaves to join him in this rebellion. It didn't really turn out that way, which I'm happy about.
Yeah, and I like the way it begins too. It doesn't feel like a typical fantasy novel. I'm talking about tropes. It doesn't begin in like some old tavern or like in some lush forest. It's it's a pretty barren hellscape, in a way,
like a farming village or something.
Yeah. So it kind of it's a little bit different the way that it starts, and it I don't know, it hooked me pretty quickly.
Yes,
into the prologue.
The setting was good. The dialogue very well written.
It was
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised. Again, we're coming from The Name of the Wind, where everything was, it kind of just it flowed along and it had a lot of detail. It seems like the writing style is a little bit shorter, but it still has an air of great importance.
It's very effective.
It is.
Yeah. There's not a lot of exposition and explanation or big flowery descriptions of things. It's pretty straightforward, very accessible.
Which is amusing, knowing that, and then knowing that Robert Jordan's widow picked Brandon Sanderson to complete the Wheel of Time, which is like
opposite
the crowning
world
achievement of flowery writing.
And he'd written this book before he got tapped to finish Wheel of Time, hadn't he?
I believe so. Yeah. So that was interesting. And you, I believe, when we were talking, you likened some of the aspects of this book to Dune.
Yeah, I don't know, intentional or not. It just reminded me just some of the, you've got a barren planet. You've got the Steel Ministry kind of reminded me of the Spacing Guild for some reason, and then the Steel Inquisitor reminded me of a Guild Navigator for some reason, that they have some powers that are kind of unexplained and just mysterious, and they're kind of feared and, I don't know, held in high regard by some. And then you've got the character of Ven feels not like Paul and Dune seems much more pure and maybe not innocent, but Ven's got a history and she's in the Thieving Guild, but it's still this young person that has these untapped powers that she'll come to discover. Same with Paul, and I don't know where the Bene Gesserit fit in, but then there's also the great houses of was it Scadrial? Is that the name of the world?
Like that. And
so you get these great houses, and you get the great houses of the Landsrat and Dune, and I don't know that it was intentional or not, but there's definitely some homage there of some, on some level.
Yeah. It's and like the Lord Ruler being the Padishah Emperor, and things like that. So yeah, absolutely.
So I was trying to read through this and see if I could figure out any sort of commonality themes to what I've seen and read before. And I have probably the most unusual epiphany when it comes down to like the first couple chapters. This seems like kind of a mashup of the following movies: Last Airbender, The Italian Job, and Amistad. So,
not Ocean's 11?
Not Ocean's 11,
okay,
specifically The Italian Job.
Yeah, good.
I'm expecting Mini Coopers maybe in chapter 3, 4,
I
or 5.
liked that aspect of it too, because then it wasn't, that was kind of another of the tropes that you see in fantasy, is that there's this big quest for some mystical item that they're going to go after to beat the big bad guy.
Right.
But in this one, it's no. We're going to do some things that we're going to plan this heist to steal this valuable metal from the Lord Ruler to undermine his power. And
I think that's in chapters 3 and 4.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Spoilers. Sorry about that.
Jeez.
Anyway, I thought he divulged maybe some of that in chapter 2.
I thought some of it was chapters 1 and 2.
Chapters 3 and 4 is really the meeting where he talks
so anyway,
to them. Yeah,
they're planning a heist, though, basically, to overthrow her, to kind of begin this rebellion, which I thought was kind of different
but
approach.
to that point, I mean, we're not dealing with like high heroes that people write songs about.
No.
No.
And that was another thing. I kind of jotted some notes down as I was reading, because the characters all feel very real. They all have their own motivations. They aren't inherently good. They aren't inherently... I guess we don't know the Lord Ruler. We haven't actually met him yet. But the nobles just seem like they're hoity-toity. They're just above everything else. I don't think they're inherently evil. They're just of a different class. But the thieving guild members we met are kind of just very well-rounded, and there's some depth of character to them, so that we don't know... I don't know that Kelsiera's motivations are purely good, purely
we can't tell at this
altruistic.
point.
It's he seems like he's got a vendetta.
Well, he's definitely countercultural.
Yeah.
I mean, he's again kind of like again like another movie reference, Morpheus in the Matrix. He feels like he's kind of like outside the normal caste system.
That he's in the know of certain things that he probably shouldn't be.
Right.
Being of his level of skaa or whatever he is.
Yeah, we don't know what he is entirely.
But one thing that kind of impressed me with the prologue was that you usually that just like nothing monumental happens. It just kind of sets the stage. But in this one,
there was a lot that happened.
Lord Trusting dies, all of his guards die, and his palace is burned to the ground with relatively no explanation.
No. It's basically Kelsiera leaves the skaa.
He burns
hovel or whatever, and then
the only thing that Sanderson says is he burns tin.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you like coming into this, I'm like, I have no.
What does that even mean?
That means.
No.
Is he using
I
sympathy?
actually went back like 3 or 4 paragraphs. I'm like, I must have missed something.
It's just kind of like that was abrupt.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that bothered me. It's like that was a little too much of a.
Yeah. You got pushed right into that.
It was kind of like a punch in the gut, or
pulled right into it.
Like a peanut butter stout that
Watch the last video if you have enough time, because you'll get to see the lowest review Chris has ever given.
It'll be after.
It'll be after this one.
Yeah.
All right.
We recorded before this, but it's gonna probably go up Sunday or Monday.
So this is a teaser for next week.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too, because the way going back to the characters and how they're introduced, and reading the prologue, you assume, Kelsiera must be kind of the hero or the central protagonist of the story, but then you are introduced to Vin in the very first chapter after the prologue.
True.
And it's like, maybe she's kind of the chosen one, or the orphan who has something big to do here. But so I really don't know where they're going. I read. I think I'm a little bit further ahead than you guys, but I still don't know, where these characters are going or what their journey is going to really be.
What you just said kind of reminds me of an interview I heard about from Star Wars with Mark Hamill, where he got the part of Luke Skywalker, and he just assumed he was going to be like the sidekick to Harrison Ford's Han Solo. He didn't realize the movie was actually about
he was the foundation of that
he was it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's Vin.
And that's kind of who Kelsiera reminds me of, is a little bit of like a Han Solo, kind of a brash.
Yeah.
He's
arrogant,
confident,
he's
arrogant.
He doesn't take things seriously.
Yeah, he's kind of the reluctant hero type.
Right.
Maybe not reluctant. I think he wants to be seen. He wants kind of the glory, but we still don't know what his motivations are.
But he also seems to have a heart, right? Because one of the skaa girls is being taken to Lord Trusting for
Jess, I believe.
And that's really what sets him off, because
she hears the screams, doesn't he, of them trying to take her away, and then he basically just leaves this skaa, the meal that he gave him this food, and they were.
And it's interesting to me that he's not one of the slaves in this settlement.
No, he's kind of like traveling through the way that they set it up.
Which struck me as odd, because they talk about the skaa like all of them are slaves, and you have like this one that's just like wandering around.
And they're very like regionalized, so they all work in the same area for their whole lives, and he's kind of bringing stories from, I don't remember if it was of the east or the north, or
kind of all over.
It's very different in the north when and you can see there he's kind of planting these seeds that life could be different than what you're experiencing right now, and kind of building towards what we start to learn about in the next 2 chapters.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. I was turning up the gain a little bit just to be safe.
Okay.
So hopefully we're not all overpowering right now. But I know I'm also speaking a little bit lower because I'm getting over a cold. I don't think I'm a contagious, so you guys don't have anything to worry about.
He doesn't.
Good to know. Yeah.
I hope. Okay.
But it was all in all, I thought it was a really good introduction. Like, it really just, it wasn't like you just kind of wade into the story. You really felt like you were being kind of tossed into the deep end, into this unknown situation. Plus, we haven't really talked about it, but the entire thing with the ash falls.
Yeah.
That really seems interesting.
And I was going to ask about just the world building in general, what your perceptions were, because it isn't a typical fantasy world. It's not Middle Earth. It's not the Four Lands. It's not Westeros.
Right.
It's like a city or an entire world that's built around active volcanoes.
Yeah. And all I gathered from, I can't remember if it was in the first 2 chapters, but it's just basically the Lord Ruler somehow gained control and kind of manipulated the world to his design, and it's this chaotic, fiery, barren wasteland. I mean,
we'll get into that a little bit more the next time, but
yeah.
Which again draws that parallel to Dune.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. The interesting thing that kind of happens in like chapter 1 and chapter 2 is we're introduced to this idea of like thieves guilds and things like that. I should drink more.
It's a really interesting idea to have even like a guild of thieves. It's like they're still kind of in that same brotherhood, but they're all against each other and they're like outside the system. But
yeah, and I can't remember if it was chapters 1 and 2, but they talked about how Kelsier had this reputation, even within the Thieves Guild, that he was pretty good at what he did.
Right.
Yeah. Well, because and I don't remember if it's in chapters 2 or 3, but it's in 3 or 4, so we won't get to it this time.
Yeah.
But,
But the other thing that I liked is, and I don't know what the mists are. So every night, so in this world, it's basically enshrouded in these just thick fogs, mist,
and people are
that
afraid
covers
of
the ground. Yeah,
well,
and the skaa are terrified of it.
But Kelsier seems to like just walk through them like they're no big deal.
He doesn't care. He just walks out, and I think they mentioned the mist wraiths and stuff, and are you afraid of these? And he
they called him a mist wraith.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that you talked about the world building, and that's one of the things I noticed is that there seems to be a vast world here, and he's just kind of dropping tidbits here and there, and it in some cases like the first experience with Allomancy with him burning tin, it's jarring, but in other cases it's like perfection. He just like drops it there, and you're like,
it's just it's like he drops it there and then he kind of drops another seed. So I think we talked about that with Rothfuss, where there's like seeds along the way, and it just this kind of slow reveal of what this whole allomantic system is, and even where I'm at in the book, I have no idea where it's going. I just know that there's just certain different metals and stuff that have these, power that whether the Mistborn and then what were the other?
The Mistings.
The Mistings. The Mistings can use like one pairing of metals, but the Mistborn can use all of them in different ways. But so I don't know. I love the concept, and it just seems so well thought out and
Well, and we mentioned in the last episode that Sanderson, one of his strengths is really just building and defining these intricate magic systems and having them constructed where they have hard rules and things happen. But there's an arcanum at the end where it talks about
arcanum. That sounds familiar.
Yeah. where it talks about the different metals and what they do, and
They never kicked Ambrose out of the Arcanum. They
Which
should have.
jerks.
I know.
He's the biggest jerk of them
well,
all.
I haven't read the Wise Man's Fear yet, so.
I did.
But like
My comment still stands.
Okay, fine.
Spoilers.
But I mentioned earlier about burning tin, and here
Yeah.
it says a person burning tin gains enhanced senses. They can see farther and smell better, and their sense of touch becomes far more acute. This has a side effect of letting them pierce the mists, allowing them to see much farther at night than even their enhanced senses should have let them. And so again, we have like this cryptic reference to the mists.
Yeah.
So there's more going on there, and I'm interested to see what it
makes
is.
you wonder. So if the Lord Ruler kind of reconstructed the world in his vision, are the mists a way of controlling, large elements of the population to keep them fearful of going out at night? And is it kind of like going, back where people that thought the world was flat? I guess there's still people out there that think that you could sail off the edge of the world, and that there is
I actually
no
read an
point in
article
exploring
about that the
beyond
other day.
certain areas. Is it a way of controlling a population through fear? I guess
Yeah,
is-
that's a good point. Good point.
Right. But it's so going to the Thieves Guild and to what is his name, Cayman?
Yep, Cayman. Yeah, so he was kind of a jerk.
He's a giant jerk, but what like their whole plot to impersonate
He's basically a lord of some sort.
to try and scan this ministry, and we find out that Vin is able to seems like she can use allomancy without realizing what she's doing.
So then they say there's trace elements probably in the water that she's using without
pulling
even
from.
knowing.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
And she calls it luck, by the way.
She does,
which I thought was interesting.
Yes, because doesn't she say she's using her luck or
Yep.
helping?
It felt like an RPG game where you have to let the luck restore
Yeah.
and then you can roll again. And
right.
Kind of like rolling for initiative.
Exactly.
But I mean, they do a great job of raising the stakes and creating tension there, because they're going in front of, and these I want to call them inquisitors, but that's not
The
right.
Obligators, yep.
There is a Steel Inquisitor that shows up. I think
Boy,
it's
he's
in
kinda
chapter
creepy
3.
looking.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about him in the next session.
But the Obligator, kind of like the one that appeared in that prologue.
Yeah.
She's trying to use luck on this Obligator, and it appears to work.
Yeah.
But what we don't know, or what she doesn't know, is that Kelsier and Doxson are actually there in the waiting room, and it sounds like they're actually there scoping her out.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
I think that she had more of a reputation for things that were happening when she was around, where
That she
people
was
were
not aware of.
That
and
she wasn't aware
it
that
looks
people are
like
picking up on what
that
she was
Cayman
doing.
wasn't necessarily aware of that reputation
No,
either.
I don't think he realized what she
Right,
was.
And
or what,
one of the interesting things that struck me about Vin was, she always talked about her brother and how
Yes, I'm wondering if he's coming back. Is it
Well,
Renan or?
it started with an R, but it
Yeah.
really kind of reminded me of Daenerys and what was Daenerys? Viserys.
Reen. That's
It kind of
or
reminded
the
me
controlling
of that
brother,
dynamic.
that
Yep.
he was.
Yeah.
He probably realized that there was more to her. What she was doing, it was definitely using her to gain an advantage. But But what was it? He left. Did he just?
He was
He left, and
all of a sudden
he
out
was
of the
in
group.
debt to Cayman, and then Cayman said, "Well, now that he's gone, you're going to pay his debt," and basically held her in servitude to him. Held Vin.
So the world building really builds up an accurate and believable portrayal of a caste system and these guilds and these honor codes and all of these different pieces. So
And I like the way it's set up, and it reminds me of when we saw Star Wars. It was such a different view of sci-fi, and coming back, it was 2001: A Space Odyssey was kind of what we had before Star Wars, and it was just this perfect, clean, vision of the future. But then Star Wars came along, and it was cringy, it was dirty, and even just watching The Mandalorian recently, it's not always the nicest people. It's people that actually they just seem real, and that's what I liked about this. Is the characters seem very real. They all have their motivations. It was a dirty world. They're surviving in it. They're doing what they have to survive. So they kind of operate in some gray areas. So there's not. It doesn't feel like it's good versus evil. It feels like it's more of a, hey, we need to survive and we want to find a way to make these lives better.
Exactly.
It's.
So is this a good place to say in the next episode we're going to find out if Vin was able to successfully luck the obligator?
Sure. I think so.
Is there anything else we want to say
about her? Is she Irish?
She might be.
Well, so she at this point she's already left with Cayman, and they're apparently successful.
They've got the money.
But we don't really know much about what's going to happen because it seems too easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it seemed. Yeah, and I think even Vin kind of picked up on that. This seems way too.
The obligator and the Inquisitor come out after them and appear to be following them.
Right. So that's right at the end. So they did introduce the Inquisitor.
They did. Too. And the last page and a half.
Yeah, and I looked up. I did a Google search just for images and see what people kind of perceive, because I had a certain view, and that kind of reminded me more of probably just the way David Lynch filmed Dune, just with some of the bizarre costumes and the look, but it just felt like the big railroad spikes through the eyeballs that they come through the back of his head that should kill a normal man, but for some reason
the Inquisitors,
these guys, I don't know, I want to know more about them because they seem kind of badass, but
supposedly immortal. Well, we'll talk about that more next time.
We will. All right.
So next time we will cover chapters 3 and 4.
Sounds good.
If you liked what you've seen, we invite you to click the subscribe button that's somewhere over there below Brian.
All right.
If you want to follow us on social media, we are at TDW Podcast. That's on Instagram. That's on Twitter. You can find us at TDW Podcast on Facebook. Also, if you haven't read the book or you don't own the book and you would like to, in the description we have an affiliate link to Amazon. So if you go and you buy that through the link, we will get a cut of that will allow us to make this show better. So that is one way that you can kind of build your own library as well as support us. So that would be really cool.
Cool.
Awesome. And we will see you next week with the next episode.
Awesome. Allons-y.